Raj, do you need any fantasy advice? Josh is full of it.
Well, I've gone rogue in my fantasy league now. I'm pretty much done.
Oh.
I
Want to
fucked
fuck it up for other people then?
kind of. I have good players. It's just like I'm very unlucky. Like I have Beal, and finally Beal's like, as soon as Collins and Aiden get back, Beal's getting injured. And
Did you pick up Ish Smith?
nope.
Killer.
I also have-
killer. I wanted him
colossal
to
mistake.
get him.
He's still up there, I think.
Get him.
Oh my goodness.
How do you not have him?
But I don't need those categories. Like I need more rebound.
Fairly you do.
I think you need winning. That's the category that you need.
Okay, should I drop Ish Smith for Daniel House Jr.?
Yes.
What?
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Stretch 4 podcast. I'm your host, Peter Tran, and on the line I have my pick and pop partner, Josh Cohen. How you doing?
Doing all right. Feeling a little bit battered and bruised, just like my Raptors right now.
You okay? Is there something at home that we got to know about? She got you good,
Yeah, the
didn't
wife
she?
has been treating me properly, but we're not going to go into that.
Oh, man. You know, there are helplines for this kind of thing. The banger in the paint, Rajan Walia. How you feeling?
Not too bad. It's been a while. Happy New Year, guys.
Yeah, for real. We haven't done this since before, eh?
Yo, it's
Yeah.
2020. That's just weird. There's no flying cars yet, but it just feels weird to be in 2020 now.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, has it really changed anything for you?
Well, I keep writing down 2019 when I'm like, writing out the year, so I haven't got used to it yet.
Get together, man. You're really slacking today.
I know.
Shame on you, my friend. Yeah, when was the last time we talked? Like before Christmas, right?
I believe so.
Holy.
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks.
Jesus, a lot has happened. I think like probably the biggest thing has got to be Kevin Love, right? This guy deliberately wanting out of Cleveland. I don't know how else to say this. He's just being an asshole on the court, not really taking anything seriously, cussing out his GM and then telling him he's got all the money in the world to pay his fines. Like, Kevin Love we can expect him to leave Cleveland sometime soon, right?
Well, I think that's easier said than done. Like that mammoth contract that he signed really makes him hard to move, and he's obviously an older player, still productive, but not at the money he's getting. So I don't know. I'm really 50-50 on him actually moving. I know there's lots of rumors, but it's a lot of money. Like, who's going to pay him $30 million a year for the next 4 years?
I'll tell you who's going to pay him that money. The Phoenix Suns. Because right now they're sort of stuck in purgatory to where they don't really know what they want to do. It seems like before the season started and getting Rubio and Baines, they definitely want to make the playoffs, and now they've totally fallen off the last month or so, which a lot of people predicted. I still like watching them as a team. It feels like they're missing something. And I think if you put Rubio and Love together again with a team that warmly wants to make the playoffs, they're sort of like, Detroit West right now, where they just want to make the playoffs no matter what. I think that would be a good fit. But outside of them, I can't really see any other team that would make sense right now for Kevin Love. And in terms of Kevin Love, like, I don't know. There's two different sides of things. You can feel sorry for him for being in that situation, having to watch Colin Sexton dribble out the air for the basketball every night. And then you also have to look at the other side of things where he signed his extension, so he put himself in the situation. So I like Kevin Love as a player still. I think he can still be a really good contributor to a team. But he put himself in this scenario, so I don't really feel that sorry for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Phoenix is a good fit, but how are they going to make the money work?
I think they have some tradable contracts, like Aaron Baines. They have to trade probably a couple of guys on their bench. I have to check the salaries.
Yeah, but 30 million is not a small number to get to, especially Kevin Love. Like, I think maybe in the prime of his career, he could have been a good number 2, but like paying 30 million for a number 3 guy who's just going to get older is a lot of money, and he doesn't really fit in Phoenix's timeline. But like you mentioned, they're just trying to make the playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see if they make a move for him. But there's not many teams that can really like swallow that cap space and have tradable assets that Cleveland would want back. But I don't know. I think it's still 50-50 that we're here in a month and we're talking about how he wasn't traded.
Oh, I found the trade. It's Tyler Johnson. He's making 19 million a year, and then you put together a few of their smaller contracts, and bing bang boom, you got the
Yeah.
trade.
You put Tyler Johnson, maybe Dario Saric in there because they clearly don't like him that much, and then one of the smaller guys, Czech Diallo, Cam Johnson. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
Kaminsky is basically the poor man's Kevin Love.
Very,
He's the
very
dead
poor.
man's Kevin Love.
Okay, fine. I wasn't trying to say that much about the poor guy, but damn. But then this team would be awful defensively, wouldn't it? Like, imagine a front court with Kevin Love and DeAndre Ayton anchoring your defense. My God.
They gave
Yeah.
up 115 points to the Kings yesterday, so they can't get much worse.
Was Ayton playing?
Yeah.
Aiden was playing. They're starting Aiden and Baines together right now, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
it's fun to watch because Aaron Baines has actually turned into like a really good 3-point shooter, but I don't know. I just don't think it works overall when you have two slow-footed guys on the perimeter like that.
They don't have many other options, though.
No, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
this is a good situation for them to take in Kevin Love. I think it's going to happen. That's my prediction.
Wow. Raj, can you see him being moved?
Kevin Love?
Yeah, like anywhere else?
If I had to bet, I think he's not going to get moved. I think that contract's a lot, and I feel like Cleveland's stubborn in their ways. I think they're probably more likely to trade him in the offseason where they can maybe get better return, and also they want to get something back. And maybe they'll find out in terms of the offseason, like what pieces they want back and how they're going to approach next year. So I think he actually ends up staying on Cleveland.
Yeah, I could see that. I want to get him to the Knicks. How about that?
I don't know. Does he have a no trade clause? Because like,
I just want more big men on the Knicks. I don't think that they're like 14 big men are enough. I think they need one more just to really fill out that roster. You know what I mean?
have a starting lineup of Julius Randle, Taj Gibson, Kevin Love, with R.J. Barrett and Peyton.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Throw
Yeah,
in
why not?
Bobby Portis in there as a trade asset, and you don't need Wayne Ellington. They don't really play him that much anyways. And then bang, there's that close to your 30 that you need. No biters. Okay.
No, I don't think I don't see it happening. Like I struggle to see. Like I know there's a lot of talk of him wanting to go to Portland, and them maybe being interested, but especially with Carmelo being there and them getting back Nurkic and still having Hassan Whiteside, I really think they, I don't think they can make it work. And obviously they would have to trade one of those pieces, to Cleveland, and I don't even think Cleveland would be that interested at that point either.
I don't know. I think a Whiteside for Love trade makes sense.
But would you pair
Whiteside, he's a paper tiger, right? Like he puts up stats. Even yesterday, like he put up like a crazy game. He had 7 blocks, but he didn't really affect the game at all.
Would you want Love and Carmelo on at the same time though?
No. Carmelo would have to go to a bench role at that point. I mean, maybe they start together until one of their other bigs gets back, and Collins or Nurkic, but that would be the worst front court defensively of all time.
Yeah.
Carmelo and Kevin Love.
Well, the modern NBA doesn't play defense anymore, so why should Carmelo?
Yeah, that's what Carmelo says. I don't know if that's true or not, but whatever he wants to tell himself, so he doesn't have to play defense every night.
Hey man, Carmelo just drops buckets. Let's be real. You saw that game winner against Toronto again?
He's still fun to watch, but I don't know. I'm not a fan.
Yo, don't lie. Every time you see a Carmelo jump shot, like it's a pretty looking shot. The form is
He's
just
easy on the
perfect.
eye.
Yeah.
He's easy on the eye for sure.
How can you not like watching the guy? Even when he
Josh
misses,
is
I
just
think
a
he's gonna
hater.
drop.
I'm just a hater. What can I say?
I don't like it, man. You need to get around on this Carmelo Anthony bandwagon like everybody else. Join the rest of the
Portland's
internet.
doing so well with him since they got him.
It's not his fault that they suck.
Yeah, that's what all Carmelo fans say. Wasn't his fault in OKC. Wasn't his fault in Houston. Blah blah.
No, it was his fault in OKC, not in Houston. Houston, he was definitely just a scapegoat. Let's be real. Carmelo Anthony did nothing except try to bail them out when James Harden wasn't in shape for the first 3 months of that season. So Ree, your superstar, who's like supposed to be one of the best players in the league, shows up out of shape every year, and you blame Carmelo Anthony, who was like 33 at the time? Come on.
Yeah, and it's hard to fit into a system where everything revolves around Harden too. You have to be a very specific type of player.
Yeah. Not everyone can be Trevor Ariza or Ben McLemore. Ugh.
The resurgence of Ben McLemore.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Next up on our trade demand, someone... I don't know if this guy even warrants a demand, but Dewayne Dedmon wants out of Sacramento. Do we even give this guy minutes? Does the team even give this guy minutes? Like, what are we doing here with him?
Yeah, I think the issue with him is like he's not playing and he wants to be playing, and I don't think he's mad at his contract or like anything in specific. He's just like, why'd you sign me if I was going to ride the bench? Which is surprising to hear because he's not a household name and it's not like he's fighting for his brand or anything like that. But yeah, it's interesting too because the Kings have been depleted in their front court in terms of just injuries. Like Bielitsa and Holmes have been really holding down the minutes with Bagley being hurt, and even Giles I think started yesterday against the Suns. And Dedmon's been pretty much like relegated to a bench role. But I don't know. I don't know if there's much of a market for Dewayne Dedmon.
No, I mean, he sucked at the start of the year. That's why he wasn't playing. And Rashawn Holmes just totally took over his minutes because Rashawn Holmes has been really good this year. Like defensively, he's been a stalwart, and offensively, he has this little push shot from like 14 feet that he seemingly never misses. I don't know if you guys have seen like a lot of Brandon Clark this year, but he sort of has the exact same shot, and both those guys just never miss. It's weird to watch. But yeah, Dewayne Dedmon, I sort of liked him the last couple of years in Atlanta. Like he played pretty well, and he actually improved his 3-point shot a lot too. I think he was 38% last year, and then 36% the year before in Atlanta. And this year he's at 23% with Sacramento, and he's shooting 42% overall. So he just hasn't had a good year with Sacramento. He hasn't really fit, and maybe it's just because they play at such a slow pace despite having the quickest point guard in the NBA, which also makes no sense.
Blame the coach. They didn't play that slow last year.
Yeah, they were the opposite. They were like the team leading the pace last year. So I don't know. Do you think he gets moved, Josh?
I think the only team that really makes sense is if Atlanta doesn't end up getting Drummond. I can see them trading.
Bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, like he was a good influence on their team the last couple of years, and he fit well with Collins. And he only has 2 years on his deal, realistically. Like his third year, it's a team option, I think. So I know he's making 12 or 13 million the next 2 years, but 15?
13.
Oh, 13. Okay. So yeah, 13 million the next 2 years. I don't really see a contending team trading for him. Maybe Boston, but who would they want to trade? I don't know. I don't really see that.
Boston.
Yeah, I don't know if Boston really does that. I don't think he gives you the minutes that they need. It's like an upgrade because they're not deep in that position, but it's not a big upgrade. It doesn't really solve anything.
Would you rather have Dewayne Dedmon or Enes Kanter on the floor in the playoffs?
Dedmon, but I think Boston's really looking for like a number one center, and I don't think both of those guys are number one center. Like I think Kanter gives you something that's unique that may be useful in the playoffs. It's not like he's going to be playing 30 minutes a game, but even if he gives you a good like 12 to 16, 17 minutes in the playoffs, and he's good on the offensive board, and he's a good second unit guy, you can put up some stats. I think they have their own value, but I think Dedmon's not a number one center that Boston's really looking for.
And plus, Boston doesn't have any salary to trade for him. The only guy they'd have is Marcus Smart, and you're never doing that trade, obviously. So,
would you do Tice and Kanter for him?
No. Tice is a better player than Dedmon.
Really? You think Tice fits in that system better?
Tice has been good on defense this year, and he's fit well in that team. And he's only in a $5 million contract, and it's a team option next year, so it's a much better situation for them.
And again, it's like you're not getting a big upgrade, even if Dedmon is considered a better player. It's not markedly better. But again, I think Boston doesn't make that trade. I do agree that Atlanta does make sense because they've been looking for a center. Alex Len, Damian Jones haven't been putting up the numbers that they wanted them to with John Collins being out. And Atlanta's still a young team. They'll be able to absorb that money, and it'll be interesting to see who they would trade. But I don't know. I don't know what happens with Dwayne Dedmon. I feel like there's not much of a market for him.
Yeah, and I mean, they sent him home up until yesterday when he finally played because he had to, because Rashawn Holmes is out. So he played, I think, 24 minutes or so, had a double-double yesterday. But before that, he was sent home and didn't play at all the last, 8, 10 games? So, I don't know. I also don't see him being moved either.
Just going to wither away. All right, last guy we're going to talk about here. Your boy, Josh. Not really your boy, but I'm going to call him your boy. Kyle Kuzma.
Ugh,
You love
don't
Kuz.
call him my boy. I'm not a fan.
According to NBA 2K20, at the beginning of the season, a top 10 power forward. Kyle Kuzma.
It's amazing how overrated he can come just by playing for the Lakers. And that haircut needs to go. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah, he has some style issues. Like, his stylist is clearly not doing their job. But yeah, Kyle Kuzma. I feel like he's the most interesting trade prospect. Because I think there's a lot of... Yeah, I think so. He's young. He's on a very nice deal. There's a lot of teams that would be interested in his services at the price, and I don't think teams would be giving up that much. Like, they're not giving up the bank or giving up like a lot to get him. And also, the Lakers aren't looking for draft picks. Like, they're looking for like immediate impact players.
Yeah, but the problem is because he doesn't make that much money, you have to include other players in order to match his salaries. And the Lakers are going to want... probably a swingman who can shoot threes off the bench, and there's not a lot of those guys out there that are available because they're so valuable.
Do you think the Kings would let go of Trevor Ariza?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
Okay, so what if you put Kuzma, who's making around 2 a year, with Quinn Cook, who's at 3, and then you gotta throw in someone a little bit pricier like KCP or Avery Bradley.
Well, the funny thing about KCP is he can choose whether or not to be part of a trade, right?
He's got a veto.
Yeah, because of his, I think it's restricted free agency. The last few years, he's been able to pick up the trade option where he can actually veto the trade. I think the same thing happened a few years ago with who was it? Somebody going to Brooklyn a couple of years ago that vetoed a trade. I can't remember who it was, but it was like 5 or 7 years ago, and they vetoed the trade. And it was like a big trade too. I'll figure it out later.
Yeah,
it's on the top of my head. But yeah,
okay,
I mean,
so find Avery Bradley instead.
Avery Bradley's been a good player for the Lakers, though.
Yeah, but Trevor Ariza's better.
No, he's not.
No, not now.
I don't know, man. I'm still not sold on Avery Bradley.
I'm not either, but he's been good in his role this year. Like, he's fitting pretty well with what they wanted from him. He's a good cutter, and he's made a decent amount of his shots that he's taken this year. He's been okay. And Trevor Ariza's making $13 million next year. I mean, it doesn't really matter for the Lakers because they're just trying to win, but he hasn't been that productive.
That's why the Lakers would love him. Just a guy to stand on the perimeter and shoot, just like what LeBron wants.
Yeah, but I think
he hasn't really been good at that though for a little while.
True.
Yeah, I think the more ideal option might be for the Lakers to look at the Kings and offer Kuzma, Quinn Cook, and KCP for Bogdanovic.
Yeah, and Vlade Divac would have to be smoking some crack to accept that trade.
Nah, he probably might. Remember, this is the same organization that passed on Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I know. He's made some pretty terrible decisions. I mean, he traded, I think, 3 first-round picks and a pick swap in order to get Rajon Rondo and Marco Bellinelli in free agency. So he hasn't had a good track record, obviously, but that would be an awful trade. That would totally swing the odds of who's winning the championship overall, because the Lakers would be by far the best team in the league if that happened.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a quick league veto right there.
I don't think so. I don't think Bogdanovic pushes the Lakers that much over. I think he's a better player than Kuzma, absolutely, but I don't think
he's a way better player than Kuzma.
Yeah, he's like a tier or two ahead of Kuzma.
That's a guy that can score 20 points any point in like any playoff game. Like he's ready. Like he's a better player than Buddy. Like he should be starting for the Kings. He's a better player than Heel. He might be their best overall player besides Fox.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that trade happens. I don't think Trevor Ariza is going to be part of any trades. I think if the Kings are going to trade someone, it's going to be Bogdanovic. It's because, like, even if you guys believe that he's a better player than Buddy Hield, like, he's not playing, like, starter. Well, he is playing starters minutes, but he's been coming off the bench for the last, for, like, the last 2 or 3 years. It doesn't seem like the Kings are that high on him, or else they probably would have looked at getting him into the starting lineup and developing his game and so forth. And like I really could see them being like, you know what, Kyle Kuzma has cool haircuts, let's go for him.
Now the thing with Bogdanovic is he's on a deal for $8 million that's expiring this year, but he's restricted, so whatever team trades for him can just re-sign him without having to worry about him just leaving. Unlike, we're going to talk about probably Andre Drummond soon. Andre Drummond's an unrestricted free agent, so if you trade for him, there's no guarantee he's going to re-sign with you. So at least with Bogdan, you're getting a really good player and a guy who's in his prime, and you control his rights. So that's big. He has value around the league, and he's a guy that can totally swing the playoff picture.
Also, he's too good for Sacramento. I just want him to be moved literally anywhere else that he can actually play.
Any playoff team.
Yes. Like any real contender.
The team that should be going for him is Milwaukee. He'd be great there.
Oh, he'd be insane.
Yeah, that would definitely push them into the favorites in the East and probably one of the favorites to win the title. Probably top 2 with them and the Clippers.
Wow.
If they aren't already there.
Interesting tidbit. The Sacramento Kings are still paying your boy Matt Barnes $2.1 million this year.
Yeah, this is why I think Bogdanovic might be moved.
Why?
I think he's going to be moved too. Like, I don't think that they can keep him at this point because he's not going to resign there.
He's too good.
They just gave Buddy Hield $110 million for some reason.
And they signed Corey Joseph. They signed Trevor Ariza. They also have, what's his name? Drawing a blank here.
Harrison Barnes.
There you go.
For $90 million.
They signed these 3 players that if Bogdanovic is an infinitely better player than all 3 of those players currently, then he should have got that money. They should have planned for re-signing him. Instead, they're going to try to either trade him, which I think might happen actually. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get lured into getting Kyle Kuzma, whose numbers might get inflated with the Anthony Davis injury. But I really do think Kyle Kuzma is going to get traded. I think we talked obviously a lot about the Kings being a trade partner. I wouldn't be surprised if either Atlanta or Minnesota make a trade for him, and then the wild card is Memphis.
Josh, since you brought it up earlier, we should talk about him because I totally forgot already. Andre Drummond is being rumored with several different teams, I guess. The Pistons are taking calls. They're saying they're not actively making the calls, but who knows what's really happening behind the scenes. And, well, we can just say it. Andre Drummond is boys with Trae Young. That's it. That's all I got.
And I mean, he makes sense if they really want to sort of stabilize their starting unit. Because if you get him, they have a pretty good starting lineup. I mean, they have Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, who's been on and off this year. He's been good. John Collins, and then Drummond. So that's a pretty good starting 5. And it seems like they sort of want to accelerate the rebuild. Because originally starting the season, it seemed like they just wanted to, slowly bring things along, see what they had in these guys. And then all of a sudden you heard these rumors of them wanting to accelerate things because Trae Young was not happy. And, bringing in his best friend might make a lot of sense. And them as a pick and roll duo, I think they fit really well also with Collins too. And then Huerter just fits well with Trae Young as well because he's such a good shooter.
Huerter fits in with everybody.
Yeah.
That dude is just a good player.
Yeah. They just have to fill out their bench at that point, which, if you have a starting lineup like that, you can be a good team in the East for a long time.
You don't need a bench. You have Vince Carter.
Stabilizer.
Yeah,
Who would you give up from Atlanta?
Yeah, that's the
Well,
key
you have to
thing.
give up the expiring contracts and a pick.
So you'd have to give up. The clear and obvious one would be Chandler Parsons.
Or Allen Crabbe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which would the Pistons rather have?
Well, it
Probably
doesn't matter.
Crabbe.
They're both the exact same thing, right? They're just an expiring contract.
Yeah, but they still have to pay someone for that time period, right? So you're either paying Parsons the prorated at 25 or Allen Crabbe at 18 and a half. You go Allen Crabbe, you might be able to squeeze someone not as valuable, but someone who could be a potential building block in the future, like Damian Jones too. You know what I mean?
Damian.
Yo, Detroit loves their bigs. What can I say?
Goodness. I think if they included Cam Reddish, who hasn't really had a good start to the year, like he's been awful, and he hasn't looked like an NBA player. I mean, if you include a guy like that, plus either Turner, Crabbe, or Parsons, and a first-round pick, I think that could work.
The contracts don't have to add up perfectly, do they? Like, there's a wiggle room for it, like 10% or something like that.
It's they have to equate to 75%.
Oh, that's fine then.
Because Atlanta's under the salary line. They're 30th in the league in salary, so I think they can take on more salary.
Okay, I got it. You send Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson out of Detroit. Say goodbye.
Yeah, Atlanta's not taking that.
And then you take back Chandler Parsons and Allen Crabbe.
And a couple of first-round picks.
Yeah, sure.
You're gonna have to. Well, I don't think couple. I think one first round pick might be it, because it's, especially if you don't protect it and it's a lottery pick, I think that might be enough.
I'm cool with
Yeah,
that.
I don't think Reggie Jackson's going to be part of this deal. I think it's just going to be Drummond and maybe one other part. And then you get back Reddish, the expiring contract, and the first-round pick. I think that's a trade.
Look, I'm just trying to get rid of Reggie Jackson, all right?
Well, he'll be gone after this year anyway, right? It's an expiring contract.
Yeah, but I'd rather... I don't know, man. I'd rather watch Allen Crabbe than Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, I'd rather watch anybody than Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
When the rumors originally came up, like the two teams before I actually saw that Atlanta was rumored, I thought the two teams that would be in the running for Drummond were Atlanta and then Cleveland too, because Cleveland's sort of on the same timeline too, where they have a bunch of young players, and they might be looking to stabilize because you don't want to be in the lower part of the NBA rankings for that long with that kind of dwindling crowd, because they struggle with attendance when LeBron's not there, obviously. So they want to be able to make the playoffs ASAP, I think. So I think that's another team you should be looking at too, because you can trade Tristan Thompson's expiring deal, and then another first round pick maybe, and then you can upgrade to that position.
Okay, what if you send Kevin Love for Andre Drummond? Now,
Detroit's not interested.
you would have two of the best power forwards circa 2014 on the same team.
And then you have the
that'd be fun to watch if
D-Rose.
they were actually healthy. Those two guys together, it'd be fun.
That'd be sick. Yeah, and then having D Rose. My God.
Also, the other team you have to think about is Charlotte, because they have a lot of expiring bad contracts. They're like the last team in the NBA with all these like mid-level expiring contracts of Biyombo, Marvin Williams, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. So they can make it work too if they want to accelerate their rebuild and become the middling team that they always are.
Yeah, I think Charlotte and Atlanta are the teams that are more interested in Drummond, and I think especially with Charlotte, I think they have a few young guards that have been playing very well this year, and they're pretty competitive. And I think having Drummond there, solidifying that position, makes them a very credible threat to make the playoffs in the upcoming 3 or 4 years.
I sort of like the Spurs too. I heard that rumor about LaMarcus Aldridge for him. It's interesting.
For
LaMarcus
Drummond?
is on for another $24 million next year. Yeah.
Oh my God, Papa's gonna quit.
Or he turns Drummond into what he should be.
No, he's gonna quit. Are you serious? Oh, he's gonna turn DeMar DeRozan around. No. Papa doesn't turn
Even though I'm
anyone
a
around.
DeMar DeRozan hater, like DeMar's been really good the last couple of weeks.
No, not a couple of weeks. He's had 1.5 good weeks. Let's relax. DeMar still hit his first 3 of the year after Ben Simmons. Let's just make sure everybody knows that. No, I'm out. Don't do it, San Antonio. You're already going down. Just rebuild properly. Somehow
I
shift
just want
DeMar
to
to
see.
somewhere.
I want to see Andre Drummond unleashed because he's been the same player since college.
He's not
where
going to
like,
be unleashed. The guy just wants his stats.
yeah,
Come
I don't know. I think you
on.
put him with the right coach. I think he could be that defensive stalwart that everyone wants him to be.
I don't think so. If you can't do it with Dwayne Casey,
Oh God, don't get me started on him.
all right, let's move on. Formerly Dwayne Casey's team, your reigning 2019 NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors, cannot catch a break. These guys are missing what? Their best 3 out of 5 players? Would you say? Between Pascal, Marc Gasol, Norman Powell was out for a while as well. And then this
Van
week
Vliet.
you lose, Fred Van Vliet. Like, this team is running out some really shaky lineups right now.
And the
It
funny
hurts.
thing is, they're still working. Like they had Stanley Johnson as a primary ball handler in the fourth quarter yesterday, and it sort of worked. It was really weird to watch.
I'm sorry, did it really work?
They went on like an 8-0 run with him as a point guard. It was really odd. And what's the guy's name? O'Shea Brissett? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Canadian kid?
Is that his name?
Man, he's been really good the last few games. The Raptors just keep developing these guys who are like producing in big minutes when there's been a lot of injuries. And I think last year what happened was, I think Masai Ujiri sold his soul for a championship.
I'd sell my soul for a donut.
That can be arranged.
Flanders! You're the devil?
It's always the one you least suspect.
And then this year they're totally being punished by all these injuries because last year they were really healthy throughout the entire season for the most part.
No, they
And
had
then this year
injuries.
it's like, okay, everyone, nah, not as much as this year.
Well, Lowry had the hand injury from last year. I'm pretty sure JV, when he was on the roster, hurt his hand as well. Van Vliet was going through, was it a knee problem last year, I think?
Van Vliet was haunted by a ghost until his daughter was born.
That is true. That's a big... And then also they had the OG. Obviously, it's not an injury, maybe more like family, dealing with the death of a family member. Like, they weren't perfectly healthy last year, but...
It wasn't to this level, though. This is insane.
No, this
Yeah,
is
I think
a lot.
This is a lot all at once. But I think one thing that's maybe probably not talked about, and I think Peter touched upon it last time, or maybe the time before that when we did our podcast, is the amount of minutes that Nick Nurse is playing his starters is getting to a point where it's a little ridiculous, because he has young guys. Like, it's not like their bench isn't producing, and obviously you want to win the games, but it just feels like he's stretching the starters thin. And when you're playing like Kyle Lowry like 37 minutes a game, obviously now with Van Vliet injured, you kind of have to, but even when Van Vliet was healthy, like playing him like 35, 36, 37 minutes a game, it's just putting a toll on these players who aren't getting any younger, and their team is not that young with Ibaka, Gasol, Lowry all being like 32 plus. So I feel like Nick Nurse is doing an excellent job with the team he has, but you got to limit the minutes.
During the game against Brooklyn where they won by 19 points. 19! How many minutes do you think Kyle Lowry played? This is also the game where Fred Van Vliet got injured, but he played like the whole game.
He also got injured in the last 2 minutes when they were already up like 15 points, which is what the fans are so angry about.
And he was still on the floor, right?
Yep.
Crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if Lowry played like 37, 38 minutes.
43!
Why?
My man was 6 of 19 and
The
played
issue
43.
with what Nick Nurse is doing right now is the combination of minutes and then also how they play defense. Yes. The way they play defense, they run around like chickens with their heads cut off. Like they are scrambling all over the floor. That's great for, Nurse to bring in whoever off the bench, and they all just get it. They're all like in the system. They don't really make mistakes on defense, and they know where to run to. But the way that they play defense and like having one big man stay back basically, and the other 4 perimeter players just run around and try to guard the ball, it takes a toll on you over the course of the year. So, and they have these bench players who are producing. So, as you said, lower the minutes for these starters because of the way you play, or you can just keep the minutes as is and play a less aggressive style, which is not obviously going to happen.
43 3 minutes for your lead point guard in a 19-point victory.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense in the playoffs, obviously, with the way that they play. And to also have the minutes up. But you're doing this in December and January. So,
Yeah, and it's not like Davis hasn't been productive or Rondé, Hollis, Jefferson haven't been productive. It just seems like he's sat on playing those guys like 20 minutes a game and doesn't really want other players like playing. And like this isn't an issue while they were injured. Even when everyone was healthy, like Nurse was still pushing the starters like 35 plus minutes, even if they were winning by like 10 or 15.
Yeah, Pascal was averaging like 37, especially in blowouts too. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's just
Terrence Davis played 8 minutes yesterday. 8, and he's your primary backup point guard.
I sort of like what Nurse is doing though with the bench players sometimes though, because at times, especially like Rondé Hollis Jefferson in the early part of the year, he benched him to sort of bring the dog out of him, right? So he waited a few games, brought him back in, and then Rondé turned into like this all-league defender for like 10 games. So I think he's doing the same thing now with Terrence Davis, even though he's played well. After the game yesterday, he said he played him 5 too many minutes. He's just messing with their mental in order to like build them up.
I said, no, let the boy watch. Let the boy watch. He needs to learn the way I learned from my father.
Yeah, but
that's funny.
But I think also like I get what you're saying and I'm all for it, but you're gonna have to play Davis 40 minutes a game when Kyle Lowry goes down with the injury that he will go down with at this rate. Like you got to balance that, like getting the best out of your young players and making them work hard to earn their minutes with making sure the minutes you're giving to your starters are balanced enough that they can handle and they're not overdoing themselves. And finding that balance isn't easy.
Do you think that's what he's doing with the Stanimal?
Don't do that. Man, that guy's bad. Oh my god. He's so bad.
Stanimal.
What does he do well? Like, I thought he was going to be like a really good defensive player. I thought he'd sort of be like what Rondé is now for us.
I did too.
He's so bad.
Oh my god. Yeah, he's awful. He's been awful for them.
Player the Raptors have played this year where you can just say, like, this guy's been awful consistently. He hasn't had any moments. Like, O'Shea Brissett is playing really well. And Stanley Johnson can't, like, play a little bit of defense and get some rebounds.
To be fair, Stanley Johnson hasn't really played much.
Yeah, because he's terrible.
Yeah, he's only playing now because everyone else is hurt. But at least he's playing ahead of Malcolm Miller, so there's that.
I saw that he went down to the G League a couple of days ago and he shot 8 for 24.
You're a pro. Oh my god. You dropped. Oh man, Stanley Johnson. You're a lottery pick, dog. Oh,
I'm so disappointed with him.
I hope he figures it out soon or like figures out whatever is wrong. He had so much potential coming out.
He should be like the prototypical 3-and-D guy because he was the one guy last year when I watched all the games that I said, like, this guy is actually doing a really good job on Kawhi Leonard. And that was one of the main reasons why Detroit swept the Raptors in the regular season.
Was he on Detroit during that time?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Really? I remember him being... So he was traded twice last year? Because he got shipped to Milwaukee and then
he played against the Raptors. And I remember one fourth quarter where he totally shut out Kawhi when Kawhi was just like going off before that. So he had some potential, but clearly not.
Huh. Holy crap. You're right. Yeah. What a shame. Oh, well. Let's move on.
Boucher.
Oh, that too. Chris Boucher is nice yesterday. Let's get this man some minutes.
Then he got benched for some reason.
For O'Shea Brissett, your boy. No.
Well, Serge and OG.
Serge. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta play them together, though. Just play them together.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like he's got to play Serge at least 36 minutes a game or something. Even though Serge is like 45 years old.
I still say Masai blows it up. That's going to be the one thing around the trade deadline that's going to happen. Nobody's going to expect it, and it's going to happen.
I actually don't see it happening. No, not anymore. And it's not because they're successful or they're now, I think, the 5th seed in the East. I think it's just more that the way they're playing is entertaining. It's not costly. They're a very attractive market for those players who maybe haven't performed to their expectation, but are hungry for a second chance. And they're looking at a lot of players who had a chance to like turn it around or develop. Like, I feel that Toronto's now the number or one of the top spots in the league for young players to go develop, establish themselves, have a pretty good media following. So it's an attractive market, and I think blowing it up to rebuild will be like detrimental to that. So I think they're not too far away from Miami in terms of the standings. Like, obviously they're like 2 or 3 games back, but Miami's having this all-world season, and the Raptors have been injured like crazy, and they're 2 games behind Miami, which is now the surprising team in the East. So I think he's going to keep it together.
Yeah, I don't see it getting blown up anymore. Remember the last time a world champion blew it up? You had the 2011 Dallas Mavericks going into 2012 season. And then, like, that team hasn't recovered until now. You're looking at 8 years for a recovery? I don't think the Raptors can afford anything even remotely like that.
Yeah, and again, like they have these young players. Like, obviously, look at the team right now that's playing. Obviously, Siakam is not going to get traded. I think it's established that he's going to be a part of all plans going forward. But like the team with pretty much Lowry and a bunch of players who are not starters or like not your top 3 or 4 guys have been putting competitive performances. So yeah, maybe they trade Marc Gasol and pick up another piece. They might trade Serge and pick up a piece. Maybe not both, but I don't think they're going to completely blow it up. I think they have an attractive style of basketball. They're going to attract a lot of free agents that are underperforming but want a chance to prove themselves. And I think that's a good brand to have, especially if you're going to go for the Giannis sweepstakes.
I agree. All right, let's move on. Let's go to... Do you guys want to talk about Blake Griffin being out indefinitely? I mean, I'm assuming his season is over. He hasn't really been... Well, he's been awful all year, to be honest. Obviously, he had a crazy run last year, but reestablished himself as one of the best power forwards, but just got injured last year and couldn't get it together now. So might as well just do the surgery, get it over with. I think it's his shoulder or his knees.
No, it's his knee.
Yeah, that's a shame. Blake Griffin, former top 3 MVP candidate. Is that accurate? For a couple of years? I remember top 5. He's definitely top 5.
He was really good last year, too, until he got injured.
Yeah, he's good when he plays. It's just he doesn't play consistently enough.
And thus, Detroit will try to blow it up.
Finally.
Yeah.
It's only been like 5 years in the making, or 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I think Blake, did he have the surgery last year after the playoffs or no?
He played in that series, and then I think he had surgery.
He had surgery. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like it might be, I think it was the same knee that was giving him problems last year. And I think it's something that he tried to avoid the major surgery on, but the pain kept returning and he was unable to play. So I think this season's already a write-off for Detroit. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're looking to trade Drummond. It's a good 6 months to figure out what you want to do. Hopefully they rebuild.
All right. That's the analysis of the Detroit Pistons. Now, we have, let's say, about 5 minutes. Can someone tell me why, as we all predicted, the 76ers cannot score the goddamn ball? Because their defense is still good. Defense is, I'm going to say top 5, but I know it's one of the better ones in the league. Why the hell can they not score?
All right. I'm going to be that guy. It doesn't matter, honestly. Like right now, what's happening with them of losing 5 in a row, it does not matter. Let's just be honest. This team is built to beat Boston, to beat Milwaukee, and to get to the finals. And they've destroyed both of those teams when they've played them. So them losing to mid-level teams and some other teams throughout this run, it does not matter.
Yeah, I'm going to go complete opposite, but not in the sense that it doesn't, like, I don't think they need to panic, But I do think they need to make sure that the players that are role players know their roles and are comfortable playing those roles. Because I think they are the favorites to beat Boston, favorites to beat Milwaukee, unless one of those two teams makes a trade. And they probably are the favorites to come out of the East. But I think the longer they let this like mediocrity continue, the more doubts there's going to be about the team. And clearly this team has not done well with pressure. Like, they've been pretty much Boston's bitch for the last couple of years. And I think the pressure, if they're not playing well heading into the playoffs, could get to them. So this is more important for players like Tybal when he comes back healthy, Mike Scott, players like, even I know Josh Richardson's a starter, but he needs to be playing well and know his role. And I think they need to establish their roles. I don't think the results matter as much, because as long as they're one of the top 4 seeds in the East, which I think they'll be close to, I think they're going to steamroll through the playoffs, like you mentioned.
Does their inability to shoot still worry you, though? Josh, I know you had them as like a top team this year and like, coach of the year, MVP, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, they're not going to get it, but...
Well, I mean, the fit hasn't been great, obviously, but in terms of shooting, like, they're top 10 in three-point shooting. So it's not as bad as everyone thinks it is. Just when you watch them, you're like, this sort of doesn't work, even though it still sort of does, Just an odd positional fit, because it's not usual to have this much size and all these guys posting up their mismatches, but it will matter in the playoffs when that's what you want. You want to have these mismatches and be able to go to whichever player on the floor has that. But the one issue they've had is fitting in Horford, and I'm not sure they're ever going to be able to figure that out when playing with Embiid, but and having him as the backup center in the playoffs, that's going to be huge.
Wait, did you say they're top 10 3-point shooting?
They were the last couple of days. Maybe it's changed since the losing streak.
For, you mean percentage, right? Not attempts? Or, sorry, not attempts, but even made? Because the Spurs last year were, I'm pretty sure, like top 3 in percentage. Doesn't mean that they're good at it. You know what I mean? Like, because you're selective with your shots doesn't mean that it's going to be enough of a threat.
No, that's true. But at the same time, if they're still hitting, not a majority of them, obviously, but hitting a decent percentage of them, it still keeps the defense honest, and it allows them to, run their offense and actually post up these guys and not have, a toilet bowl offense like some of these other teams have had with playing two bigs.
I see. They are currently 12th, by the way.
Yeah, they've dropped the last few games.
Yeah. But I think one thing too is there's 3 players on that team that want to play in the paint. Like, I remember reading this crazy stat when watching the 76ers game that like Ben Simmons takes like 72% or like even more, like 79% of his shots from inside the paint. Which is ridiculous considering you have Embiid, probably the most dominant big in the game, and Horford, who obviously wants to play closer to the rim, all on the same starting lineup. So I think the problem is like deep, but I don't think there's a situation where they change it. Like, they're not going to get anything dramatically improved. I think they go with what they have. They just need their role players to play well and know their roles.
You're really focused on these role players, eh?
Well, I think if you look at their star players, I think their star players more or less contribute, but I think their role players are kind of hit or miss, and I think their depth is something that's questioned. Their shooting, and we all know that Simmons, Embiid, Horford aren't going to give you great outside shooting, but you want some consistency from Tobias Harris and Josh Richardson, but you also need at least 1 or 2 guys to be able to step in, hit your open shots, because Embiid and Horford and Ben Simmons are going to get the double teams. So there's going to be people with open shots, and they have to hit them.
If this lineup experiment doesn't work this year and they don't make it out of the East, I want to see them trade Simmons in the offseason, because they're going to build around Embiid. They're going to choose between the two. And I want to see them trade him for McCollum and probably Zach Collins. I think that would be a really good fit for both.
Ooh! McCollum and Embiid would be beastly together.
Yeah, and plus the lineup would just fit better, because, when McCollum's been put into a position where he's a primary ball handler, like, he's really good.
Yeah.
Especially in the playoffs.
Yeah. Same with
He's efficient.
Josh Richardson. I don't know. This Ben Simmons and Embiid thing is a weird fit.
Yeah, and I mean, if it doesn't work this year, I mean, I think it's time to start looking at trading Ben Simmons and trying to get as much back as you can for him, because he's got really good value right now. He's a really good player. He does a lot of things on the floor. He's been really good on defense this year too. Yeah. And I think you put him on like a team like Portland, where he can become like, the actual point forward where he doesn't have to handle the ball all the time, and he gets the ball on the roll and sort of becomes like, sort of like Draymond. Everyone brings up that, situation with Draymond because he's like the prototype. But Ben Simmons in that role would be better than Draymond was, I think, because he's just more creative off the bounce.
Yeah, but I think one thing that's like frustrating about Simmons is like, this is what, year 4 of him, and he still shows a reluctance to shoot open shots. And again, like, no one expects him to shoot like anywhere close to like a great shooter, but like even average, but like you still got to shoot the open shots. And it's frustrating because like even Rondo shoots the ball more than him, and I don't know if he's a worse shooter than Rondo. Like, I don't know because I never see him shoot.
This is year 3 for Simmons, not 4.
Well, 4 in the league, 3 playing.
Sure, but even when Rondo was younger, he didn't shoot that much either. Like,
he
took
didn't,
layups, but that was it.
Yeah, he did, but I feel like Simmons has a lot of opportunities to, at least like improve. Like you have to start shooting to improve. Like you got to try before you can say like, oh, I made improvements or I'm not. Like, yeah, he worked on the shot all off season. Yes, he made a 3-pointer finally. Like, this is all great, but like if you're gonna shoot like 15 threes, or not even 15, but like 10 a year, like that's useless. Like, there's guys who play like 30 minutes a game that shoot more than him. 30 minutes a year.
Do you think it's more mental for him not shooting?
Yes, absolutely. I think he just doesn't want to look like a fool. I think he knows that he's really good at getting to the rim. When he was younger, he was obviously a dominant point guard. He could get to the rim whenever he wanted. Now he can't, or it's not as easy. And he's just reluctant to shoot. Like, it's not like he's not open. It's not like he doesn't know how to shoot. Like, he definitely knows. It's just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to make, like, miss shots. He doesn't want to be responsible for losing the game. He's more in tune with, hey, you know what? I'm just going to passively go on, get to the rim, score the easy buckets, get good stats, help my teammates. Great, like great attributes, but eventually you got to shoot a little. We're not asking him to shoot 15 times a game, but like shoot like 3 or 4 shots outside the paint so the defenses respect you more and they're not collapsing on Embiid and Harris and Horford.
I think at some point, though, we have to stop like going along with the media narrative that he has to shoot threes. Maybe this is just who he is.
No, I'm not.
And I think you can build around a Ben Simmons as long as you have enough shooting around him, because he's still really fucking good.
No, absolutely. But I still think, like, I'm not saying he has to shoot 3 threes a game, but he has to be able to shoot like something outside the paint. Like, even if it's like a 15-footer, like from the free throw, from the elbow, or if it's something like along the baseline, like he can get those shots. And like, I'm not expecting him to shoot like CJ McCollum or like Dame Lillard or like, no, I think that's clearly not going to happen. That's not his game. But to be able to hit a few shots, or be able to take them at least, is important for him and the team.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you put him in the right situation, maybe he doesn't have to shoot. Maybe he's just like a guy who just gets the ball off the roll and creates. Maybe in that situation, he doesn't have to be a shooter at all.
What if you had Simmons in, let's say, New Orleans, a team that's guard heavy? You have a bunch of guys who can shoot. Obviously, Redick, Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball now, Josh Hart, whatever, like Etuan Moore, whatever. Where Simmons has to be more of a big, like you said, Josh. He takes on that Draymond Green role where he's a 0.4. You know what I mean? So there are other ball handlers.
If Zion wasn't there, it might make sense, but with Zion there, I don't think it does make any sense. And that was the one trade I was thinking about like a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, Drew Holiday for Ben Simmons makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but you're not getting enough value for Ben Simmons, to be honest.
Really? I mean, Holiday is not up there, obviously, in terms of the value with their age and everything, but
yeah. And also with Zion and you have Lonzo, like you have a lot of players that aren't perimeter shooters.
Yeah, Lonzo can shoot.
Okay. You know what? That's actually a great comparison. We knew that Lonzo had an ugly shot going into the NBA. He had to change his mechanics. He missed a lot in his first year in LA.
Yeah.
Right? But he's improved, and he's not even, I would say he's a below average NBA shooter, though, Lonzo Ball. But he's at least trying, and that's still not his game. Like, his game is still like running the offense, like facilitating, getting to the rim, playing defense. But he at least shoots when he's open. And like even Draymond in that offense, when obviously you have Clay and Steph and you had KD, like defenses would play off of him and force him to shoot or play off of him, like challenging him to shoot. And even though we know Draymond is not a great 3-point shooter or not even a great shooter outside the paint, he took a few just to earn the respect of the defense a little.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that you can't build around Simmons like what you have,
No.
but he could be so much more.
Yeah, and
Like,
again,
the potential
like,
is there.
Yeah, just shoot 3 or 4 shots outside the paint. And yes, if you go 0 for 4 in the next 20 games, that sucks. And people will look at you, but I am sure that eventually you'll start getting 1 for 4 and then maybe 2 for 4 outside the paint, like good looks. And if you're shooting like 40% from outside the paint, 35 to 40%, at least those are open looks.
Woo! Yo, breaking news. Josh, did you see this? Oh, you're on your... Ah, right. Shams Charania tweeted, Pacers star Victor Oladipo tells, well, Stadium or whatever, that he's planning to make his debut January 29th.
Ah, very exciting.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
Makes the
Can't wait
East
for my
even more
fantasy.
interesting, too.
Oh, man. Oladipo and Brogdon together? Ooh, what a backcourt, man.
You just yell out efficiency.
Yeah. Cannot wait for that to happen. Cannot wait to see it.
That's the other team in the East that nobody really wants to play either because they have a lot of depth around those guys.
Yo, they're going to be trouble for whoever plays them. Straight up.
Absolutely. And Nate McMillan deserves a lot of credit, but we'll talk about him another day.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys got?
We
Any
could
more
do a stats corner if you like. I got one thing for stats
Ooh,
corner.
Okay, let's go. We haven't done this in a long time. Cue the music.
You're gonna give me an intro for this too, right? When you edit the podcast,
Choo.
I'll take it.
What you
So, who are the best rim protectors thus far in 2019-2020 in terms of field goal percentage allowed at the rim? And if you don't get it within the first 3 guesses, I'll give you a major hint, which should allow you to get it.
How many are we guessing?
3?
Let's go 5.
Okay. Rudy?
Rudy is not in the top 5.
Oh, damn.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis also not in the top 5.
Wow.
Wow.
We're ass.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a bonus.
Sabonis is not in the top 5.
Oh, we suck.
Okay, maybe you're us.
All right, so 3 of the 5 guys, the top 3 actually, are all on the same team. So if you remember our conversation from a few podcasts ago, we talked about a team that encourages other teams to shoot threes because all they want to do is protect the paint.
Okay, so Lopez.
Yes.
Brooke. Yeah.
Giannis.
Giannis.
He's number 1 by far.
Who's the third one on this team? Robin?
Correct. Robin is number 2.
Okay.
And then to round it out, you're not going to get the last 2. So number 4 is
what
Jakob
conference?
Poeltl.
Aww.
Well, the last one I'll give you. So the
Yeah.
last one plays in the East. And he plays pretty good minutes.
Jarrett
Miles
Allen.
Turner.
Correct. Number 5.
Boom. How about that?
Good recovery.
Hey.
Well
Talking about,
done.
talking about. Just gotta keep shooting your shot, Ben Simmons. No, you would have had to give more hints than West. Jakob.
Random white guy who got traded in the Kawhi Leonard deal.
Jakob Poeltl. Him.
Hello. Who's not? Yeah, you're right. That's pretty much all he is. All right, good stuff, man. Good stats corner. Finally. Bring some more next time.
Finally.
Dude, we haven't done it since the beginning of the year. We need more
Thought
of
you were
this.
insulting my stats corner from the past.
No, man, I needed more of this.
All right. I'll bring some next time.
Keep pressing us, man.
And also, next podcast, I'm going to go off my Chris Paul versus Russell Westbrook tangent.
Oh, yeah, we'll start with that next week.
Yeah, let's save it.
All right. I want to thank everyone for listening. Please remember to rate and subscribe. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor, all the major podcast platforms. You can hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Stretch4Pod. And until next time, peace.
And remember, Chris Paul is still better than Russell Westbrook.